Crypto sentiment sours as we see the largest ever crypto hack on ByBit, and Bitcoin takes out key support levels to the downside. Vol spikes and put skew richens as investors reach for protection, but long-term call skew persists, suggesting that the bullish regime is still intact. All this and more in this week's Crypto Options Unplugged. Welcome back to Crypto Options Unplugged, everyone. I'm Imran from Options Insight. I've got my man Dave in the studio from FRNT. How you doing, man?
I'm good. Yeah, welcome back.
I needed some sun, man. I needed some sun.
Yeah, well, you had a break and you broke crypto, I feel.
Oh, I don't think that's really my fault. I was back on Saturday and it was yesterday where we got the brutal sell-off.
It was Tara's fault. It was in there last week.
Exactly. But she did warn people something was brewing. I don't know if this is quite what she was talking about.
No,
I think what she's talking about is a hell of a lot worse.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you make of this weakness?
Yeah, it's do you know what? Like we were talking earlier, right? It feels like maybe it's been brewing in terms of we've been in this really dull, like for Bitcoin, this really dull range. Obviously, alts have been pretty badly beaten up.
Yeah, Solana's got killed.
Yeah, and Bitcoin's not really gone anywhere. Sometimes it needs that flush, right, to clear out some stale positioning and stuff.
It is concerning, the Solana move, because it's like basically saying Solana's only being used as a meme casino.
Yeah.
And if people don't want to get involved with memes because they keep getting rug pulled now. So then there's no other use case for Solana. So if that's what the crypto market's saying, that's a bit worrying, right?
Yeah. But like we're very, like in anything, we're very narrative driven, right? So you add, I mean, all the hate that ETH's got over the last year. And it's like, oh, see, no one does anything on ETH, and actually it was a load of meme coins and shit going on Solana. By the way, Solana's a great chain, right? But that narrative's faded. Also in March, you've got the FTX Solana unlocks, right? Which I think people are maybe trying to front run that. Certainly, if you look at like the shorts,
what size is that? Do we know?
Like about a yard, over a yard. I forget what the actual size is, but it's big, right? But then the thing with that is, particularly like those institutions that were basically bought discounted Solana that was locked up from the estate, that's going to have been hedged out.
Yeah, they wouldn't have just sat on
it. They're not just going to have sat on it naked, like exposure. Yeah. So that's going to be hedged out. But again, like narratives, everyone hears, oh, there's a big Solana unlock, a couple of yards or whatever the number is coming into the market. Add into like the meme coin stuff and what does that do for the chain? And I think that is just hitting Solana. And it does feel that Solana's actually got a lot to do with this whole move, certainly across like the broader
space. It certainly led the move, didn't it?
Yeah. So
the big question everyone's wondering is, how deep does this go? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question.
Because the macro hasn't changed, right?
Well, look, this is the thing. So what has changed on the macro? Like last week, we had some pretty poor data, right? We had the PMI data that actually showed services contracting. And that the US economy basically flatlined in February. But this is in keeping with, I've been talking about this fade in US reflation narrative, that the strong data, like the Fed have flipped hawkish, like probably at the peak of the economy, right, typically. But we were living off this sugar high from the pre-election spending, which drove all that strong data. We had results from Walmart, I think on last Wednesday, that their Q4 results were earnings beat expectations, but then they produced really sort of soft forward guidance and like warned of a softening, like weakening consumer, which kind of ties in with that idea that we had this sort of Q4 pump on the back of all this pre-election spending. That's now fading out. The PMI suggests that the economy's stalled, fading. So I think that's starting to just put the recession fear back on the sort of table, and worse, the thing that markets hate most is stagflation. So inflation plus
lower growth.
Lower growth. So that's just started to enter the psyche at the same time when the Fed are turning hawkish. So it was funny last week because the middle of the week S&P hits record highs, and then it gave all those gains back into the tail end of the week as we had the Walmart earnings. and then you had this like really soft data. And then so going into the weekend was getting hit. So that started to pull on.
You did have options expiry as well, which often plays a part.
Yeah.
Right?
But then that started to pull on Bitcoin, obviously just as broad risk started to get hit. And then late in our day, Friday, you had the whole ByBit hack.
And that's
right?
like the biggest hack in history, right?
Biggest hack in crypto history.
$1.5 billion.
Yeah.
But they said they're going to cover the losses, right? So if you had money on there.
Yeah, and they've already replaced the stolen ETH. They obviously got some bridging loans and all this sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're obviously going to hope to see what they can recover. But they've got the capital to absorb those losses themselves without like being in trouble. So actually, there's a positive story there for the market, because
it doesn't help sentiment though, does it?
No, and we're all burnt still and scarred from FTX. But it was they handled that quite brilliantly, I thought.
Right.
But then, from a sentiment perspective, they've hacked.
Question marks about the space,
and how safe is multi-sig and cold wallets, all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Just weighs on sentiment. So you kind of had broad risk turning on this kind of growth scare, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
You've then had like the ByBit hack. Then you've got like Solana getting hit probably on the meme coin stuff, some fears around the FTX unlock. And it's all kind of just culminated in this. And then we've been in this range. And then, I mean, you're saying what the levels, like 92K or whatever it was, that Bitcoin was a bit of a level.
Yeah, we were kind of trapped between 92 and like 104 or something, right, for ages.
Yeah.
And then finally that level broke. That did trigger a bit of a vol spike, as you would expect. But actually longer term, if you look week on week, longer term vol is quite well offered by about 3 points or something.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, like anything sort of from, even from like March, end of March onwards, so 1 month and longer is offered on the week. But the front weeklies have gone a bit nuts. They're up about 10 points, right? Because we just had that big drop. I mean, the ETH drop was pretty massive from 2,800, dropped like over 15% in like 24 hours, right? So yeah.
So it's a washout. It's always difficult. Where do you catch falling knife? I guess like my thing is, again, just keeping with and trying to step back and give some perspective on the market. Like the macro is actually playing out exactly as we've been talking about. It's unfolding perfectly. We've got this fade in US reflation. US yields are coming lower. Interesting today, despite the risk off, the dollar's actually like coming lower as well. Usually you think risk off, dollar's like the safe haven, but the dollar's getting hit. Obviously as well, on top of everything, we've got Trump tariffs. He's going after China a bit and tech and chips and all this stuff. Tesla earnings or sales into Europe were like down like 40% or something. We got Nvidia out on Wednesday, is it?
Tomorrow night.
So you got all so very sort of tech centric, focused, sort of risk off as well.
Yeah.
Which obviously we've got a beta too within crypto. So it's kind of been like the perfect thing. But in terms of how I see this playing out, I still feel like with the US, we're in a slowing, not collapsing US economy. So that's kind of for me like a Goldilocks for risk. Yields coming lower and the dollar coming lower.
Yeah, that's generally good.
This for me is like hugely stimulative.
That's like loosening of financial conditions.
It's a loosening of financial conditions, which will be a massive tailwind for risk and for crypto. The knee jerk is always growth fears. We go risk off, yields are coming lower, but it's because it's more in a risk off. But then we start to price, and what we need to do is start pricing more cuts for the Fed.
Right.
The Fed then will get on board because they'll start looking at the data going, oh shit,
and usually the market kind of dictates what they're going to do, right?
And they'll dictate, we're pricing more cuts. And then once everything kind of settles, then everyone goes, right, yields are lower, dollar's lower. Oh, this looks pretty good for risk. So look, nothing's really changed. And in fact, I would say from a macro, with lower yields, weaker dollar, it's actually becoming more of a tailwind. So
you don't think this is the meltdown that Tara was talking about last week?
No, I don't think it is. And like kind of my pushback to Tara last week was, like, if you look back to say 22, and I mean she's comparing it to like the was it the March 20 like COVID crash and that huge liquidity cascade. But I just feel that if we compare like to the whole 22 scenarios where you had global central banks tightening and draining liquidity out of the system, and that's what we're talking about, the tide going out and everyone was caught swimming naked. Yeah. We've still got a positive liquidity pulse coming through this market.
And China is putting money in.
And China's putting money into it. Now, obviously, complicating this throughout this year and for the next 4 years, we're always going to have the tariff headlines and what have you. But I still think they're trying to push towards a weaker dollar and lower 10-year yields. And right now, it's kind of working. And that's going to be a huge like positive tailwind for this market. So I'm kind of. This actually feels to me like where we were in like May 21. I don't know if you remember then. Big bull market, all the macro was perfect. We had a big run up. And then everything was correcting. It's kind of like there was nothing really to suggest why we should be selling off so aggressively. But this is what a 70-85 asset class does, right?
Yeah, you got to shake out a few of the weaker hands. Otherwise, it's kind of too easy.
Yeah.
Right? You know, that's what happens. It's greed and fear. People get greedy. They get too long. They get too leveraged. They need to get flushed out. The stronger hands step in, stabilize it. It goes again, right? So I agree. I think we're probably more in that camp. Certainly the option market feels like it agrees with that right now in terms of the only bid for put skew is in the absolute front end, right?
Yeah.
But when we go out longer end, if anything, call skew's going more bid than it was before, which is surprising.
Right. Okay.
So we actually saw a call bid in Bitcoin. If we go out a year to like the back maturities, you're getting more of a call premium going into the skew in the long end after this sell-off. Yeah. Which is very surprising, I would say.
Yeah, so the options market is telling us that
bullish regime intact.
Bullish regime intact. Strap in for some volatility short term.
Exactly.
And it's always difficult. Like, where do you catch a falling knife? And like weeks like this, and today's felt like the blood on the street type day where you should probably be looking to scale in, but. You know, can we go to test 80K?
I think 82K is a bit of a level. Like I've got a couple of levels mapped out on my chart. 92 was a big one, and we sliced through it, and then that went straight to the next one, which was 86.5. Bounced off that one, so the levels are proving to be quite true. And the next one below 86.5, if we were to breach that, is around 82. Yeah. So I'd be maybe looking to take a stand at 82. But again, the way you take a stand is important. I mean, because the truth is we're already kind of long, right? So do we need to like buy a load more? So like the way I generally take a stand if I think the sell-off is overdone and vol has popped is via these call ratio structures, right? Because that way you're putting a limited amount of premium at risk. If it dumps another 20%, yes, you lose your premium, so make peace with what you spend. But if it bounces, by cleverly using the vol surface to your advantage on those higher vols, you're able to give yourself exposure to a decent upside, spend very little premium, and if it really does bounce super fast and you get into trouble on the call ratios, your net long position that you started with anyway works. Yeah. So it's a nice way to layer on extra risk if you're trying to buy a dip if you're already long.
What sort of maturity would you look at?
I usually go quite short dated on 4 to 6 weeks, something like that. So you got enough juice on those options that you're selling that they're actually giving you some premium. But because they're on such a high vol, if we bounce 10, 15%, the vol on those is going to get hammered and the theta is working in your favor on them as well. So you kind of, I usually do like 1/3 call ratios when the vol has popped and the market is feeling oversold to me. I think I go for like 30 delta long, 10 delta short, 1/3. So the headline delta on the structure is close to 0. The premium on the structure is very minimal. Yeah. But when the market actually bounces, it feels and behaves like a longer delta than it actually is because of the way those shorts are eroding, basically. Yeah.
But
that was a bit complicated for those who don't understand the option terminology. But for those of you that do, you'll appreciate that. All right, who'd you catch up with this week?
Yeah, so it's a really good conversation this week. And actually, this is probably timely in terms of just stepping back and thinking more big picture about the space and people that have been in the space for a while. But I caught up with David Gokhshtein, so big sort of social media following, CEO and founder of Ghokshtein Media. Okay. OG in the space. So cool. He's seen some cycles and he's kind of seen everything. So yeah, this might help people maybe step back and
zoom out.
And zoom out. So yeah, here's what David had to say.
Hi guys, it's David, and I'm joined today by a special guest, another David Gokhshtein. I'm sure many of you know David from across social media. And David, of course, is the CEO and founder of Ghokshtein Media. David, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it, David.
Yeah, no, great to have you on. I mean, just when we think we've kind of sorted things out in this market, Friday happens and the biggest hack in crypto history. what was your take on that very quickly?
Listen, for those who follow me know that I usually cuss, so I'm going to respect the fact that I'm on your show here. But a 4-letter word came out when I seen it pop up, and I was like, please, I hope people who are reporting on this internally for us are just cracking jokes. $1.4 billion. When I seen that, it was devastating. Like, I guess it looked like the market was about to jump somewhat, and here comes, well, not so fast. 1.4 billion, gets taken off that exchange. Mind-boggling, obviously, because it's the biggest hack of all time, on or within our ecosystem. So very disappointing, obviously. But I would have to say, I will give ByBit a lot of credit for the way that they reacted. Very transparent, consistently, on social media, reporting, up to date on every single thing that's happening and what they're doing on their side to try to fix the situation. And obviously the sleuths that came out to try to also hone in and figure out who it was that went ahead and, took that 1.4 billion.
Yeah, I mean, it was handled very well, the transparency and everything. So kudos to those guys. Yeah, like you say, I mean, it's another, like, I mean, I will curse. It's like shit, it's another thing that we have to deal with. But I guess like some relief. It feels like some relief after whole FTX and what have you, that funds were there. They're able to absorb that loss and hopefully they'll recover some of those funds. So yeah, it's kind of I think there was a lot of PTSD from FTX experience on Friday and over the weekend, and the hits keep rolling.
It's like, goddamn, not again. We've come too far. We've suffered way too much for another FTX debacle, bro. Like, it was just, memories of Mount Gox and Cryptopia and all these things started to set in,
100%. So Dave, what's your background for people that don't know? I'm like interested to know your path into this and what your kind of focus in the space is.
Insanity. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, listen, I got into crypto. I've been here for a long time. And then I decided to, open up a magazine, not so much a media company, but just one with a magazine. Nobody could figure out a good name. Everything was block something. And finally, somebody within the company said, Dave, why don't we just name it after your last name? You're notable somewhat. I'm like, I always roll my eyes back because I'm humble. And I'm like, nah, I don't want my name. But they're like, yo, it's like Bloomberg. And I'm like, okay, let's do it until we figure out a name that doesn't start with block. No disrespect to anybody who does block or, in front of an my mind had me thinking, hey, in the future, right, not to be pigeonholed into a certain niche, but started a magazine, reported obviously on the entire crypto space. It was free to go ahead and pick up in digital form and obviously paper held. So did that, and then finally, it started to grow to the point where we said, hey, let's make a website and let's blog about it, let's write articles, and let's keep people up to date, and from there, just you continue to go and grow. And I love this space. I love everything about the ecosystem. I love the fact, from when I came in to now, it's grown, and it's beautiful to watch. And obviously, we're going through growing pains right now, and as we always do in every cycle, but it's good to break things, and then you figure out, you look at the things that are broken, and the innovators look at it and say, okay, let's develop something that, let's take this, we've learned from this, and let's develop something that's better. So overall, love this space, love Bitcoin, but I'm a Bitcoiner who loves everything else. I'm not just pigeonholed to Bitcoin and only Bitcoin and nothing else.
Yeah. So when was it you came into the space? Was it right at the start, pretty much?
No, some would say that. I'm a very sarcastic individual from New York. but my friend got me into it. I've always been into tech. My friend was like, "You got to look at Bitcoin." I ran for office, and that was in 2020. But I've always been into politics and always been into like retail deserves something more. I feel like we've been oppressed for a very long time, living under this centralized program system. I read the white paper, obviously. I got into Bitcoin. I started to read about it and I was like, okay, I understand. At first, I gave a little pushback to my friend because he's into Warcrafts and he geeks out. And I was like, this is, I don't know what you're trying to sell me here, but thankfully he did. He was annoying, nonstop telling me you got to look. And yeah, I got in. And ever since then, even when I was working my corporate job, I was just flinging money at Bitcoin. Then slowly Ethereum, collecting. And then finally took the leap of faith and bet on myself and bet on this entire ecosystem. Guys, if this didn't work out, I'd be back to working at Burger King or McDonald's. No offense. No offense. Future.
No, I mean, I think a lot of us are in that kind of space where we're in this now. We've committed to it, and but like for me, I don't know how you feel now, but like for me, even like through the FTX blow ups and all this stuff, at no point, and I came from sort of traditional finance and I came into space and saw crypto as the future of finance. Very much come to it from a macro side of things, but like you, kind of the macro and Bitcoin brought me into it. But then I love everything about the space. But despite everything, I kind of knew like that there's going to be a lot of bumps along the road. There's a lot to work out. It's not going to be a smooth journey, but nothing in any of that time has like dented that sense that I'm on the right path here. And this is the future of not just finance but everything. Everything in commerce and society is the internet. And people say to me, "This is you realize, Dave, this is .com all over again, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think so. That's the hope. That's what I think." And the biggest
.com with value, right? .com with value.
Yeah, and where we can distribute and share in some of that value. So yeah, very much on the same sort of path and wavelengths. What you're thinking. You mentioned politics. That's changed quite a bit in the last few months. What are you thinking there?
Hey, I'm happy that Trump came in. If we would have had Kamala, who would have won, I mean, the crypto space would have been dealt a heavy hit. Though I've stated this before, I think Kamala comes in and Bitcoin still would have done extremely well. But the entire space, it would have been up for question. You would have had that question mark. You would have still had Gary at the helm at the SEC, obviously, pushing a more, enforcement agenda, where, I would see, or I would think that most of the innovators in the United States of America would have said, you know what, we're done here. We got to move on. We got to look for other countries that are willing to embrace the technology that we're trying to build here. So, and they did that during the last 4 years. We had some of the most successful and by far some of the most successful innovators in the space leave the United States of America. But when it all comes down to it, and this is not a shot at any other country, there are amazing countries out there, but the United States of America, it's the go-to when people see that America is embracing, crypto, crypto, digital assets, collectibles, whatever you want to call them now, because there's new definitions. The whole entire world gets excited. So Trump has been a net positive for this entire space, even though some people might say, oh, the Trump meme, it might have, I still, how many people, 77 million people in the United States of America voted for this man. So we're talking about 77 million people could potentially want to get into Trump token because of Trump himself. And that MAGA community is strong. That cult is strong. And they don't even care about the price point. They care about just having a token that says Trump on it so they can add on to their collectibles. But overall, obviously, in the United States, we're excited freedom of speech is back. I love freedom of speech. I talk a lot, so I love freedom to speak. Trump and I think Elon and that entire administration, especially that they own Bitcoin and Ethereum, and the vice president himself owns Bitcoin, Ethereum, NFTs. I think the legislation that will be passed, the regulations that will be passed, they'll benefit the entire world, and we're going to see a thriving economy.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it's funny to me as well, like having been through a couple of cycles in crypto, like, we've been there, and as have you, in cycles where you are questioning, will this get banned? Will the US ban it? Others have tried to ban it. And when now, like, because it seems like this doom and gloom out there at the moment, because we've basically consolidated and we didn't take out like record highs. Alts obviously have been beaten up pretty badly. But, when, like you just said, when you've got a president, a vice president, all these people that own it coming into the space, I'm like, even as someone who's really bullish and optimistic on this space, a cycle ago, that would have been a dream, right? But what's your take on why there is, it feels like some despondency and things are taking time. Everyone wanted a Bitcoin reserve straight off the bat. And obviously that's not something to be taken lightly. What's your thought on, in terms of where we're at in the whole process, how things are playing out compared to what your expectations maybe were when we elected this administration?
I think Trump has been moving fast on a lot of issues. I've never seen an administration move this fast. Like, this is like shocking. Like, somebody's delivering on their promises. In the United States of America, this is mind-boggling.
Yeah, I like to joke here that Keir Starmer's still trying to sort out his logins and his password. He's not even thought about doing anything. Yeah, we got that.
No, but like, if I get it, as the crypto community, we want to see. Where's the clarity? We already got the clarity from the SEC. So let's the Trump SEC, which is pro crypto, they've pretty much given us clarity from their standpoint, right? I believe that. We're waiting for the regulations, right? The Bitcoin strategic reserve and all that. I just think that we need to give it a few more months and we'll have that. I know it's us, we in the crypto ecosystem want to rush that, right? But if you want to look at, if we're talking about him in general and his administration, they've delivered on a lot of promises, more in the last 4 to 5 weeks than most administrations deliver in 4 years, especially Biden. So I would say be patient. Look, World Liberty Finance is Trump's. He's going to do everything possible to make sure that everything works out. So he wants it to work out in his benefit, and in his benefit, it works out for us. So this is now where Sam Bankman-Fried is talking with Democrats and telling them, hey, listen, let's kill DeFi. This is a man who's in office right now with an administration, a pro-crypto administration that wants to get things done. But, in Congress, things don't move as fast as you expect. But I think in the next 3 to 4, maybe 5 months, we're going to see everything that we've been begging for in the United States of America and in the world. So other countries can say, you know what, they've put in this type of legislation, let's take the same thing on as well. Because that's what usually happens, right? Most countries wait for the United States. United States passes something, they type up something similar to the US to incorporate into their regulations. So again, I'm sitting here smiling, knowing that we are going to have a terrific run, and hopefully everybody is focused on that.
Yeah, for sure. I always think as well, the mistake that, and certainly having traded through Trump's last stint as president, I think the mistake people make with Trump is thinking that it's all just random chaos. And I think that's why people jump to this sort of panic state. But actually, I think he's very purposeful in what he's trying to achieve. So I always think you need to step back a little bit. I think, what are this guy's goals? What are this administration's goals? And whether that's from a macro side of things, they want a weaker dollar. I mean, essentially, he wants to reduce deficits, and he knows a weaker dollar is a way to do that. They want lower yields. He wants stocks higher. He wants Bitcoin higher. He wants to make the US the sort of crypto capital of the world. I think you have to step back and keep that in mind and think, okay, how's it moving towards that? And like you say, you know, already we've had a lot, but we're just a little bit spoiled in crypto, I think.
He's doing it. Tariffs on everything. Like, he's tariffing everybody. I'm surprised he didn't tariff my mom at this point. I mean, like, he's tariffs for everybody. He says, I love the word tariff more than anything else. And then the media crucified him for that. So he's like, I love my family. I love this. Tariffs is the number 4th type of thing for me. But look, I can be, you know, I love Trump. Obviously, I'm a Republican, but I do lean into, I can lean into the middle and understand what some of the Democrats say, or independents. So I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy like that, even though people would say I'm crazy. But Trump's first time around, obviously, it was good and bad. You know, I don't think he had the right people around him. He had a bunch of, you know, political, you know, veteran. He had a bunch of veterans from the political world surrounding him, and they had their own agendas. I think this time around, his second term, you can see he's brought in people, and a lot of these people are Democrats or former Democrats. Elon, former Democrat. Tulsi, former Democrat. RFK, former Democrat. The list goes on. Former. They just want to make America great again. I mean, I know he says that, but it's the truth. They want to bring back old school America. They want to make sure that the economy thrives here. They feel like, you know, Trump really does feel that America has been taking bad deals for decades, and they have gotten nothing. We have gotten nothing back in return for them. So that's why you have these tariffs, and he wants to obviously lower income tax or even get rid of it in general to have a thriving economy. And what happens if we have a thriving economy and we have a boom in the economy and inflation's low, and we can go ahead and, you know, that $2 trillion deficit that we have, we take it down to $1 trillion, like Elon wants to do with the Doge, you know, committee that he currently has here. The sky's the limit. It's a boom for the economy. So I am extreme. I know I shouldn't be a bulltard right now, but I am extremely bullish for the first time in a long time to see what happens. I also understand this. People like to say that, you know, the bull run took off during Biden's administration. But yet let's acknowledge what Trump built for Biden to get there, in a sense. And obviously we had a once in a lifetime occurrence, or a once in a century occurrence in the pandemic with COVID, you know, playing into factors, and stimulus checks and rates basically at zero. So, you know, obviously perfect storm, you know, to have a thriving economy.
Yeah, for sure. And so where are you seeing us in this cycle then currently for crypto? A lot of top callers out there right now. Again, I'm not. I still think again, like, we're playing out perfectly towards macro cycles. And in my mind, I mean, the question I'm actually asking is, you know, can we extend the typical 4-year cycle? And I see reasons why we could. But yeah, what are your thoughts there in terms of where we are in this cycle and where we go?
You know, like somebody like you, obviously you're analyzing daily, right? And I am in a different aspect, but you're analyzing, you know, I've only heard good things about you, and you're analyzing the markets. And I try to sit into these spaces on X especially, and I talk to people in real life, and I'm trying to understand something. I get the 4-year cycle. I understand it. We've never had this type of institutional money wanting to get into this space. So that's what's messing. It's completely destroying my previous thesis on where we're going, right? Some would say, like, we're ending in the next, I hear this a lot, 6 months from now, we're done. Some people say we're done in April. I'm like, the money hasn't even poured in yet. How can we've never been here, or at least I've never seen it. And if we have, show me, because maybe I'll have a better understanding. Maybe I can present something better to my personal audience. But I don't know. I don't feel like this is going to be the regular 4-year cycle that we're accustomed to. I mean, when that money rolls in, You have ETFs popping off. Every single day there's another ETF being thrown out there into the market. You have pension funds that I don't think they've got into this market yet. I mean, how many people who hold gold, how many of them are going to shave off and try to get into Bitcoin? How many Fortune 500 companies are still sitting on the sideline, sitting on cash, who haven't even entered the market? Apple is sitting on loads of money. They probably sit on $300 billion worth of cash. They haven't even picked up any Bitcoin, not even 1%. So I don't know. I'm just looking at it like, what happens when all these people come in, and especially when supply shock takes into play? Like I don't see this as the regular 4-year run. I don't know, but listen. I'm not Miss Cleo either. I could be wrong as well.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm leaning the same way as you, and I think people underestimate just how big this demand shock's going to be with the big institutions coming in, and it's still barely started yet, right? Even with the success of the ETFs, you see a lot of those inflows. There's a chunk of that, obviously, which is driven by the big arbitrage funds and whatnot. But there's a lot of real money to really start coming in. I still think, to your point as well, right? We've not got the clarity around the regulatory backdrop, other than knowing that it's going to be more friendly going forward. But some of the big guys that want to come in, they're like, great, well, we're waiting, we're at the door. But we need to know exactly what that looks like to come in. So, and I guess to your point, hopefully we get some of that clarity over the next few months. So I really think all these things that those of us who have advocated for the space for a long while, the supply side of it, and also the fact that it's still such a tiny asset class, right, compared to everything else. The money that could come in and from the institutional space, someone who spent a career dealing with big institutional clients, it doesn't really, no one gives a shit about some of the fundamental analysis. When if that money's going to come in, right, it's they're coming in, and it's gonna move everything.
How do we bet against? How do I bet against BlackRock, Fidelity, Vanguard, or like? This is what I'm trying to because when people tell me I'm wrong, I'm like, I'm following the money, and the money is stating that Bitcoin's going to $1 million every time they give an interview. It's either $1 million Bitcoin, $700,000 Bitcoin, 750. Kate, Kate Wood, who I respect a lot, she's like, it's going to, by 2030, we're looking into the millions on it. You have Michael Saylor, who just bought again today. Michael Saylor buys $1.99 billion worth of Bitcoin. How am I supposed to go ahead and say, it's over? I'm trying to look for the reason. Gold ETF, when the gold ETF came out, it ran for 10 to 12 years. I'm sure, I'm not saying it didn't stop for a breath, but it was a bull run, right, for gold. So why can't the same happen for Bitcoin? Because all I've seen here right now is this has just been a Bitcoin run. It hasn't been an altcoin run. Okay, the memes haven't run. NFTs, forget about it. That's the end of the cycle. So where have we ran yet? Because Bitcoin touched 108, nothing else followed. Ethereum still hasn't popped off. Ethereum is still sitting, it touched 4,000 and then it retraced, but it hasn't done anything yet.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And like you mentioned meme coins there, and I know you're very into the meme economy, and what's your sort of general take? Because we get some criticisms around it, particularly with Milani coin and Libra and all this stuff. Some saying that trade's dead now, and that's what's killing Solana as well. With people thinking that trade's over. Dave Portnoy coming in was that marking the top of that complete market. What's your overall take on that space and what it means for crypto generally, and where we're at with that?
With memes are relatable, and I keep saying this. Memes are relatable. We can all relate to the real memes. I'm not talking about the tickers. There's tickers and then there's memes, right? There are memes with history to them, and then you have like what we've seen, which has been horrific. People holding cats hostage unless it goes to 5 million. I don't even want to get into pump.fun because then obviously I'll get annihilated by that crowd. But I think pump.fun has actually it stunt the growth of the meme economy, because the meme economy was going off, and then all the degenerate gamblers threw their hats in, and all you've seen is a bunch of people just rotating the same amount of money. It's like going over cousin Ed's house and playing I don't know, poker against the same 10 people all the time, and it's just the same money is being switched around. Memes are a way, for me personally, I think they do a better job of allowing people to enter this space. Dogecoin, it had more people acquired Bitcoin through Dogecoin than actually listening to Bitcoin maxis, and I fully believe that. When the Wall Street Bets movement popped off in January 2021, you had AMC go up, GME, things that they were completely overvalued, but a bunch of people came together to make sure that they can break the hedge funds. It was a beautiful thing. I loved watching every single minute of it. I love watching all the hedge fund managers come on TV and cry. It was a win for retail, right? And then retail saw that, well, we can do this here. Let's go, they're on Robinhood. Let's go over to, let's get into Dogecoin. And that's what they did. They got into Dogecoin. And then 3 or 5 weeks later, they started to get into Bitcoin because they finally understood you can buy it at a fraction. You don't have to buy it at $15,000. I think we've done a horrific job explaining Bitcoin and how to get into it at a basic level. We go right into the code. You got to get a node. When people pick up their iPhone or the Samsungs or the Androids, whatever, and they look for their Instagram app, they're not looking to be or have somebody explain C++ or Python to them. How do I click on this so I can get my picture out, put a filter on it, and a caption? That's what people needed with Bitcoin. We did a terrible job for years explaining Bitcoin to the normie. The people that will fix it, obviously the institutions, they'll have the pamphlets, they'll have all that stuff ready, but memes do allow retail to enter in, and a group of community members are so much better at articulating Bitcoin versus the Bitcoin maxis like Max Kaiser screaming, ripping up dollars and cursing out Elon Musk. Like that is the worst thing we can do if we want to onboard anybody, cursing him out. And whatever you think of Mark Cuban, it is what it is. But here are people with multi-billion-dollar network connections, and we're cursing them out and belittling them. So I think memes are the way to go. There is an economy for it. VanEck, they obviously created the meme index because they see potential in it. I wouldn't be surprised you have Dogecoin ETFs coming out. I would not be surprised if a BlackRock, Larry Fint, comes on television and says, you know what? I like the memes. I like a Pepe and I like a Doge. I would not be shocked at all. At all.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I think all this stuff, one thing obviously crypto probably does better than anything is kind of reinforce the value of community, right? Brands and everything really ultimately are built around that. And memes, I feel, sort of capture that. I have some sympathy with particularly, those who take crypto very seriously and people like myself at times, with the macro side of things and this currency debasement idea and Bitcoin as a hedge against that. I guess I have sympathy for those that feel that we've spent a lot of time in crypto trying to explain it and what's the word I'm looking for? Like, with all the institutions coming in, actually giving it a sense of credibility. And then all of a sudden people are releasing all these meme coins. And then, I think it really impacts loads. I still haven't done the work on Bitcoin or how do you go? See, we told you it's a load of shit. All this stuff will have zero. It's all going to zero. And it kind of, particularly some of the scams out there, just kind of reinforces that sense of because they bucket it all together, right? It's all the same thing. Meme coins, Bitcoin, it's all just the same thing. I mean, how do you push back against the people that would say that to you? And is it again just not understanding the ecosystem in the right way?
I just think that I tend to like agree with the fact that 90% of these, or maybe 95% of these meme tokens won't survive. They have no value. They're here to extract, no doubt about it, 100%. But there are memes that I believe maybe 50 to 100 memes that will survive, and they'll become multi-cycle memes where you will, just like Dogecoin did. I believe that, because like McDonald's is a meme, right? Progressive is a meme. Flow is, you think, as soon as you think of Flow, you think of Progressive. As soon as you think of Ronald McDonald, you think of McDonald's. I mean, there's nothing wrong with memeing or building your company as with a meme in it to attract more people to it. I mean, how do you explain some of these protocols, right? With no disrespect to Polkadot, if I sat down with somebody and said, "Oh, you got to get into Polkadot. What is that?" Well, it's about, you have the cross chains and you have parachutes, and you've lost the person immediately, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I show you a picture of Pepe, you'd most likely already seen it, and you're like, "Oh my God, that frog, I've seen it." Yeah, protesting in Hong Kong, they used Pepe as a symbol, and now you have a conversation going. That's their first, token in. Now they're starting to observe the environment. They're in an environment which is not toxic. Now they start to understand what the crypto ecosystem is, which leads them into Bitcoin. And we all know, regardless, Bitcoin is the end all. That is what you're trying to get. You're trying to get Bitcoin, probably trying to get Ethereum as well, right? If I'm somebody coming into the system, fresh and brand new after 5 weeks, if I'm with the right people, Bitcoin and Ethereum, that's what I'm trying to go for. That's my gold and silver. And then I'll figure out, what else is pretty good to go ahead and add in. By the way, you mentioned the institutions, right? I can't, with no disrespect to institutional players that might watch this, Bitcoin wasn't made for the institutions. It was made for the normie, the retail guy. Okay. To me, Bitcoin obviously means a lot more than just gains and number goes up. It's freedom. It's the value, you learn the value of what value is, what is the value of money. You learn a lot of that through Bitcoin. So to me, like, there is nobody on this planet that can ever convince me, I'm like Michael Saylor right now, that could ever convince me to get rid of all my Bitcoin. It will never happen. Because at the end of the day, I really do believe you'll have the reserve, and you'll have a lot more people that will understand and be as passionate as me and you and others about Bitcoin, and will get it and obtain it and will hold it. Because it's like, it really is like property. It's like owning property, as some would say in New York City. It would be like holding property in the early days of when New York City was being built.
Yeah, I mean, and that's I try and characterize Bitcoin certainly as like digital property, because I think, but people don't understand money in a way. So describing it as money and that loses people straight away. Particularly boomers who want to go, but I can't touch it, and even though they've not touched money in a long time, they'll pay with card. But
You use credit cards. Like, when is the last time you touched money?
yeah,
So every single time that conversation's happening.
Yeah, I know, it's mental.
Well, I have a 401k and I have an RRA. Well, when's the last time you touched that money? Like, everything's electronic. Like, what are you talking about? Like, are you even listening to our message? We get rid of the middleman. It's perfect.
Yeah. I think as well, like when you think of the younger generations coming in, like Gen Z and what have you, like this just makes sense to them, right? Like they've lived in the digital world, they've grown up in that world. So all this stuff, and they're going to be inheriting a shit ton of money from the boomers and it just inherently makes sense to them. Like it's not, I don't think it's something they'll even question. And maybe not even the way that I still sometimes question, trying to get my head around stuff. For them, it'll just feel like a natural, like, evolution of finance that they'll laugh at us the way we used to do things. And like,
we're the old guys, right? We're the ones who helped build the road, and now they get to come in with all these fancy applications, which we didn't have. Because God forbid we lost our paper wallet, it was over. Like, right? They are coming into a world with cold wallets and really good hot wallets and, anti-phishing, mechanisms to protect them from losing all their stuff, all their, Bitcoin and other, digital assets or collectibles as they call them now. We had it hard, but listen, I hope the next generation runs with it and creates, on top of this, because there is real value here, regardless of what anybody says.
Yeah. And more than that as well, I think it's unlocking new sources of value and things that the traditional system's been unable to unlock. Which again, like from a wealth perspective, and for the US and all those economies embracing it, it's going to be massive. And I don't think people realize the contributions it's going to make to wealth creation. Just before we end, I mean, obviously, markets today looking a little bit shit. Again, just the atmosphere is the atmosphere is awful. What's and I know you're not kind of looking day to day at stuff, but what for you is like the trigger that you think like starts taking us on the next leg higher? Is there anything you're looking at for that?
I've been trying to figure it out this entire time. You might know I've literally been in papers and I have papers all over my desk trying to figure out what is the catalyst that turns this all around. Obviously, I do believe Ethereum moving would be great, obviously, for the entire ecosystem. Besides just Bitcoin moving, it would be nice to see Ethereum just blast off. But every cycle has some sort of catalyst. Like you see it. I think last time I really do believe it was the Wall Street Bets movement that really, made everything click. I don't know. I wish I had the answer. I really, there's so many things that I can say, but it's not a definitive answer for anybody who would watch the program. But I feel that's in the next month to 3 months, something happens to where, we see, what I'm talking about, the $10,000 green candles start popping off to the point where you're so confused. The people that will probably lose out on everything are the people that are not well prepared right now and not taking this time right now to put themselves in the position to where they can sit back and enjoy the 7K, candle pops and the 10K pops when they do happen, because they usually come out of nowhere, right? You'll wake up at 2, your phone's shivering, and it's because all your friends are texting you and telling you the market is completely exploding in the right direction. Be that guy that's well prepared. That's all I can say. Be that guy that's well prepared. Make sure that you're really in good assets. I'd really say that. My message is really make sure you got Bitcoin. Make sure that you're not 100% into meme tokens. I say this all the time. There's a lot of people that are taking that chance, 100% in, and don't have a safety net like Bitcoin or Ethereum. You can even go into the XRPs of the world and, listen, the banking system's not going anywhere. And if XRP is going to align with the banks, they're here to stay. So align yourself with things that will have some sort of value, and with no disrespect to the memes, but, when this is one of my friend Landy says this all the time, when Bitcoin goes hachu, the whole economy goes 90% negative. So make sure you're in the right assets and you're well diversified in them.
Yeah, no, I think that's sound advice. And it's funny for me, with a kind of core focus and a core portfolio in Bitcoin, my kind of feel to the market right now is we had this great run post-Trump and we've consolidated 15% off the highs, 10-15%. It's all just fine. Obviously, I understand if you're in some of the alts and some of the meme coins that have blown up, it feels pretty fucking painful right now, right? But
it's Vietnam out there.
I'm there just kind of low. Oh yeah, it was some macro again.
You just said it. You said you nailed it on the head, right? If you're in Bitcoin, you're just sitting back, okay, whatever. It's the altcoins and the memes that, like I said, Hachu, and they're down 80%, and like people like they're losing. I don't say shit. You can bleep it out, but they're losing their shit, and like they're like, what the hell is happening? Well, nothing's happening. You're still, most of these people, by the way, David, they're still up. It's just that they're not as up as they were before. And this is a good lesson for them. Scale out respectfully. Scale out when you selling into the green, you don't sell into the red, and don't overinvest. No, make sure you can live. Don't put 100% in. Don't get a second mortgage. Don't take lines of credit out. Wait patiently. Scale out. Take some profit. When you have profit, pay yourself. Say thank you to yourself.
Yeah, and I'd add to that, don't look at the max value of your portfolio and think of the loss from there, because that's super stressful. Like,
as soon as Kia screenshot that, you know how people screenshot and they put it on to their timelines. As soon as somebody starts screenshotting the P&Ls, put it on the timeline, I'm leaving. I already know that the top is close.
Yeah, that 100%. In fact, you do. That should be a rule that everyone said. The moment I even want to send you that screenshot, I should go off. I need to take something out of this. Take yourself out. 100%.
God's telling you, leave. Just a sign from God.
The signs of that is so obvious. Well, listen, David. This has been fun. It's been really interesting. Thanks ever so much for coming on and speaking to us. And I think the message, I guess, is we're still very early in this industry, and just maybe everyone chill out a little bit.
Lesson is buy Bitcoin, okay? Buy Bitcoin and then entertain everything else, and stay calm and surround and watch content like David's and others that are actually out here providing value, okay? And then sit back and then make a serious decision, okay? A serious decision on where you put your hard work, hard-earned money into. That should be the takeaway, David.
I think that's a great point to leave it. Thanks very much, David.
Thank you, David.
All right, cool. Yeah, that was good chat. Very, very bullish though. Very, very bullish after Tara last week. Back to the bull side.
Yeah, but again, I think David is, he's not looking at the screens day to day. And
zooming out, right?
Carried away. And like when you've been in the space as long as he has, it's like you've seen it all.
These corrections are very run of the mill, right?
Yeah, like and these are very, very normal. And I think that's my thing. Like in fact today, like calls with other sort of people in the space have been for a while. Everyone's just shrugged their shoulders, and it's like, and particularly like there's a bias in my world around Bitcoin. So anyone in Bitcoin, it's like, it's whatever. I appreciate if you've been in alts and some of the alts have like had massive drawdowns, it all feels a lot more painful. And if you levered up, you're feeling a lot of pain. But
I mean, that's the big mistake, being levered up.
Yeah, but like for most people, it's like this is all within keeping of a normal bull market. Like in fact, it's like 50% drawdown in Bitcoin would be fine. Like, but yeah, we all.
How do you think Michael Saylor would feel about a 50% drawdown in Bitcoin?
He'd buy more.
Well, we know he'd buy more. But speaking of him, don't we need him to step in and buy another tranche to
He'll have to get some more converts out, buy another couple of billion.
Jokes aside, the takeaway for me from your chat with David was stick to the high quality stuff, right? As in. Yeah, you can put a bit of play cash in these random memes and alts or whatever, but recognize that the one that's here to stay is Bitcoin.
Yeah,
right. That's 100%. Your high quality asset.
Yeah, and also as well, like his point on. I mean, I'm not I'm not short term at all in how I look at like this world and try and keep I have a longer term macro sort of framework that I look at, but he's kind of looking at it from a the industry and how it's evolving. And his point on talking about will we have a normal 4-year cycle is like it could be blown out of the water by like the institutions coming in, and you forget like we're still a very, very tiny asset class, we're a small asset class. So if we're unlocking this institutional money, and in the next few months, as he alluded to, we start to get a regulatory framework, so then all this institutional money comes in, then no one really gives a shit about your 4-year cycles. Money's just going to come in like almost mechanically, and all of a sudden Bitcoin could be pumping and be in a 5-6 year cycle. Who knows, right? And then he's obviously looking at over 10 years plus or whatever. You know, who knows where we'll be, but we all get caught up in this short term noise, and I'm sure we'll all look back on it even in a few months' time and go, that was just a little blip on a chart, and we're pumping up. But I think we'll feel that way if we're in the high quality stuff. You know, keep these sort of higher risk stuff to a smaller portion of your bags, and you'll probably feel a lot more comfortable in this market.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, we always say having a few hedges now and again isn't a bad idea. So obviously those who want to know more about that, speak to me. And
like we joke about it, but like some of the hedge stuff that you recommend, like this is for this moment, right? And then you're monetizing those hedges. Exactly. And you got some cash. I've got no cash to buy the dip. I'm all in, right? But when you're overlaying like with these hedges, A, it's going to make you feel just a lot more comfortable on the pullbacks, and B, you're then able to monetize those hedges, and then you can buy the dip.
Yeah.
And buying the dip doesn't necessarily mean buying in spot, right? Like you just say, you could be buying some call ratios.
Yeah, exactly. In a contained way that isn't going to lose you a load of money. I mean, I'll give you an example of a hedge that I put on yesterday, because I was looking at this thing like going through 94K and thinking, okay, this looks like it might want to test and break 92s. And I'm generally a little bit bearish risk assets right now as a whole. So I kind of see crypto within that bucket, right? So I had a look at the skew curve, and we were still in call premium in April, right? So we're still looking at vols of calls in April were higher than the vols on 25 delta puts, for example. So I just did a risk reversal in April, zero cost, selling the 120K calls to buy the 80K puts, right? And it costs you no premium. You still have your upside up to 120K because you own the holdings.
To April.
To April, yeah. Now, that doesn't mean you have to keep the trade on, right? But like the point is, if you're thinking the market's weak right now and we're going to go through a period of weakness and you're worried about it cracking to the downside, you can put a zero premium structure on, layer it over the top of your holdings, say to yourself, you know, okay, if I've timed this really badly, I still get upside up to 120K. Right?
Yeah.
And I can decide to do something with the position if it does start to rally. But in the meantime, if it does break and it goes to 80K, the calls are worth nothing, you buy them back, and the puts are worth a load and you sell them, and you spent nothing for that structure, right? So those are the type of hedges that you can put on.
Yeah, that's a really nice
against your holdings. And the nice thing is, because that persistent call skew and I was surprised it was still in call skew in April, right? I would expect when the market's weakening for all of those, the put skew to start going bid across the curve. But the fact that it's staying in call premium April onwards is a bit of a gift for those looking for hedges.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We'll leave it on that note. It was good to be back. Good to be back in the studio with you. And
remember our bull market now.
Huh?
we can return
the
bull market.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the hedges are in place.
Yeah, exactly. We've wasted our premium. But remember to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you back here again next week. Cheers.